Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to another video of Geeked on Science. So as you can see today we're going to be learning about friction and gravity. So we're going to be exploring contact and non-contact forces. So let's quickly get right into it without further ado. So the first topic we have to learn about is force before we learn about friction and gravity. So what is force? Well, it's an interaction between more than two things that can change the motion of both of them or one of them. And in another way, it is a push or pull, and it can change an object's direction, and it can cause an object to move or stop. So let's learn about friction, which is affected by the force. This is a type of force. Remember, friction is a type of force, and it makes things harder to move. For example, there's static friction, sliding friction, rolling friction, and fluid friction. And all of these work together to make things harder to move. If you've ever noticed, when you're moving a shelf, it's a lot harder to move on carpet than when you're moving it on a smooth floor. So let's quickly get into what the different types of friction are. Well, what is static friction? Static friction, this happens when an object is not moving and touching a surface. So this keeps the object from sliding or and moving. So static friction keeps a block from sliding or moving on a table when it's not being pushed or pulled. For example, in the image, static friction is building because it is not being pushed or pulled. The box is not being pushed or pulled on the table. And remember, static friction is one of the frictions that can build. So sliding friction. This is pretty obvious. It just happens to be in the name. This is when you pull or push a block. The sliding friction takes over now. And this is a force that resists motion. So basically, friction works against you. And it makes sure that it tries to stop the block as it moves across a surface, which is what about the shelf example that I gave you. So what's rolling friction? Well, rolling friction is basically the same thing as normal, not static friction. It's the same thing as sliding friction. But instead of pushing a square object, this time you're rolling something, and this makes sure that the tiny bumps and ridges that rub against each other create friction and heat. And friction causes heat. And now fluid friction. This is a type of friction that happens when objects move through air or water. Now, many people think it's just water because it says fluid, but no, it also includes air. So here, an example is the box is falling. It would fall much faster if it didn't have the parachute, but now that the parachute is open, it creates air resistance and slows you down. And the air is fluid, and that's a figure of speech. And it creates a force that resists your motion. So the basic takeaway is friction resists motion. So what's gravity then? Because that seems to make things happen really fast. Well, this is a pull or push objects toward each other, and it's what makes things fall down. And Isaac Newton figured it out. And the famous story is the apple falling on his head. So gravity is these things: attracting, universal, non-contact, and we'll figure out what that means pretty soon, and grounding. So the first one is gravity attracts, and it's a pulling force that makes objects move towards each other. You've seen this if you put magnets next to each other. And this means if you drop an example, or an apple, as shown in the example, it will always fall towards the ground unless you're in space. Space has no gravity. So gravity is universal. This applies on all planets and every universe, no matter how big or small. Every single object is attracted to every other object in the universe. And the universal law of gravitation explains how gravity works in the entire universe. So you might be asking, well, you said grounding and contact or non-contact. Well, non-contact gravity is a force that exists between objects when they're not touching each other, such as when you drop a ball, it falls to the ground. This is because of gravity. The earth is pulling on the ball, even though it's not touching it. So now you can guess what grounding means. When we are standing on the ground, gravity would pull us to the center of the earth. This is what keeps us on the ground. Without gravity, we'd all be in space. And some people think that's actually cool. Thank you so much for watching, guys. My only request for this video is that you like, share, and subscribe it. And remember, sub to Geeked on Science for more interesting and weekly videos. Thanks you so much for watching once again, and I'll see you in the next one.